Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of The Curse of the Collector. We do this show because the curse
Is
is
real.
real. And joining me
Totally.
today, we've got Mr. Scott Berry, we've got Jamie Laszlo, and all the way, of course, from Canada, Mr. Rick Labonte. Well wishes to Davey Gallagher today. His little furry friend and longtime family member is not doing so well. So please keep Davey and his dog in your thoughts. And as we are here. So, Davey, hope everything turns out okay. We're thinking about you, my friend. And that leads us into today. So, another month, another batch of things I'm sure have arrived in all our mailboxes. And as we always do, we'll go two trips around the Zoom here, and we each have a thing or two or whatever to show off. And Rick, we're going to start off with you today. So,
Okay.
what's your first item to show off today on our little show and tell thing we do here, right?
Okay. Well, just I know I wasn't the last episode because I was on the Caribbean.
That's
But
right. Yeah.
the episode before that, I showed the Eric Clapton box set, and I pointed out like I like the double CD of The Wonderful Tonight. One of our viewers sent me a message. Hey, Rick, did you notice they didn't have the song Badge on it from the one that George Harrison and Eric wrote for the Cream days, and that was on the double CD. And so I just had to put out there that hey, keep it. The curse is real, but there's reason why we keep what we keep. Anyway, my continue to get some stuff like that Jimmy Page did that I didn't have before. And if that's possible, I did find something else between last time and this time, and that is to get Live the Firm. I wanted some stuff like The Firm. I love The Firm. I like both of the albums. And this is a double CD of an Oakland broadcast. And the first album is out, and they're touring and they're doing songs from the first record, some of the Death Wish soundtrack, and also Paul Rogers' solo record, Cut Loose. And so it's a double CD. Each first CD runs 62 minutes, and the other is 46 minutes. And it's a whole and complete show. And even a few covers that they threw in there, some jamming like I Just Want to Make Love to You, and Everybody Needs Somebody, some covers like that. You Lost That Love and Feeling, which is on the first record. But it's a cool snap of time of when Jimmy Page was playing in 1985. This was a tour just to get Jimmy back into the limelight again. It was as a result of the Arm tour, which they did for Ronnie Lane, a benefit, and a lot of Star Power have done a show in England, and then they took the show to San Francisco. And by this time, Paul Rogers is on the bill with them, and he's been performing some of the songs from Death Wish and so on. So this relationship developed out of that, which ultimately came out with their first album. And so it's kind of cool to have this. I think I've just always wondered why Jimmy Page didn't put out something, because I've heard a couple radio shows. In fact, I had it on cassette. I sit there and record it of them, playing it, and it ended up being this concert. So another one of those things that I was always wish I had. Now I have it. So anyway, live in California, 1985, two CDs.
Yeah, I had an opportunity to go see the Firm live, and I just didn't go, and I kind of wish I did. I think that would have been cool to see.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. And
Yeah,
Yeah, and unfortunately, I've never seen Jimmy Page live.
I haven't either. Yeah,
Yeah, and I wish I had. I don't know if we're gonna at this point, but
I think he's getting up there, and I don't think it's just all these kind of I hate to say wasted years, but there's
It is
all these years that he really hasn't done much of anything, and it just seems like a shame that he couldn't. He was so focused on, well, if we can get Zeppelin back together in some fashion, we'll do that. But it's like he could have done a lot of other stuff, right?
absolutely.
He has
Could
to
have done two things at once. Could have focused on Zeppelin, which was a pipe dream anyways, and kind of do other things. I mean, what was the one album, Outrider? And that's it.
And
The
he
live
also
one with the
did
Crows?
that Coverdale
Page,
album.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
covered
yeah,
up the page. That's right.
collaboration.
And the
Yeah,
Black
yeah,
Crows.
yeah.
But the thing is, folks, he was also he prepared that book, Jimmy Page. He prepared the whole Zeppelin thing. That took a lot of research. he did those Zepp DVDs and those things. So yeah, he's continued to be locked in the past. But you know, he's actually I had those grievances too, and I learned that he was also into. He got a book out ready to he can't release until he's dead, so no one can complain about the truth that he revealed. That's done. And another thing is that he did the domestic life. He didn't have a family. He didn't do that. So he actually raised a kid. He's actually more involved in his family life than ever. And not to mention when you're rich, you invest and you got businesses going on. So he has a lot of things going on. But yeah, it is a shame that we didn't hear enough music. And there was only there was revealed that when we read the book about from the Black Crow drummer Steve Gorman says there was some music that he offered the Black Crow to do, and they said, "Well, we're good, and we got the thing going." I ended up being
You guys
lying.
turned down Jimmy Page, right? It's
I
like,
know, and then that caused a lot of rift between the band. But ultimately, I think what was that music? Where was that music there? So there's something out there. And then there's a little bit of a discussion when Robert Plant did not want to follow up the tour or something like that. They test some people like Miles Kennedy, Steven Tyler went there, but Steven Tyler started telling Jimmy Page how to write a song because there's a couple of songs he wrote, and he said, "Well, you should have a little bit something for a hook, right?" And I don't know if that went sour, but he didn't get called back again. So who knows? Jimmy Page is pretty close to his stuff, so you have to find that right person. Maybe I don't know. Maybe that's why it was so it's slim picking. He has a high standard, and he's having a hard time finding that collaborator. I don't know. I'm not sure. I know so many people were willing to work with the guy. I'm sure.
yeah. Well,
Good point, though.
yeah. Cool. All right, Jamie, we'll turn it over to you.
All right. First off, I want to say I watched you and Martin Popoff and Guitar Hack do your album rankings of Soundgarden Thursday night. So if you haven't seen that, go watch it, people. And I sat there and he got me in the mood, and I ordered this off Amazon and it came
That's pretty
yesterday.
quick.
And how Hack could have this second to last, this album,
I
is the
don't
biggest
know.
surprise of the year
Oh my
so
God.
far when he
I
did
haven't
that.
seen it yet. I did not know that. Oh my God.
Yeah, and you
Both
would
him and
think, oh,
Martin
maybe
had
he'll have like a more poppy album at number one. Maybe it's a little too, I mean, then he has Louder Than Love at number one. So
Martin's hard to
Very
predict
strange.
sometimes. I mean,
He's unpredictable.
well, I mean, he's a contrarian, right? He
Yeah,
puts
both
it out there.
both Hack and Martin had me befuddled at that whole episode. But
Yeah.
again, everybody hears things differently, right? So
That's right.
So I like having themes for these little shows that we do. And up to till about a week ago, I said, I think my theme is just going to be random shit I bought. But then a couple things happened. And I thought, you know what? My theme's going to be story time, because we buy a lot of shit. And not only do we have it and own it and enjoy it, but some of it has a story behind it. How we got it, who we got it from, how much you paid, how far did you drive to get it on Marketplace, blah, blah, blah. Because I drove an hour one time to get an album. Badlands, the first album debut, someone was selling it as a lot, and it came to like 50 cents the album, and that album is out of print and hard to get and goes for a lot more like $50. So when I went there, I just gave him a 5 and said, keep the change, dude.
Nice.
So yeah, so this story starts with Pink Floyd in the album Pulse, and some of you guys may have seen on Let's Get Physical, my Let's Get Physical page, that if you don't belong to Let's Get Physical, it's all about physical media. Come on over, take a picture of what you're listening to or watching or reading, and put it on there. And I have this thought of losing my phone, and I'm going to talk a little bit more because Davey's not here, so we got a little bit more time. Losing my phone and someone finding it and going through my pictures and like, oh, dude, what's in there? What's in the pictures? Like dick pics or something? And guy going, no, this son of a bitch, all he does is take pictures of his damn albums. And there's like 52 pictures of the same album, like he's trying to get the right angle. What's the matter with this guy? Well, Let's Get Physical. So I always wanted the Pulse. I have this CD version, but I don't have the one with the blinking light. And I should have bought it back in 92 when it came out, 91, 92. And I always thought it'd be cool to have on the wall blinking at all times. So it's online, but I was like, I'm going to find it one of these days in the wild. So I went up to a store right up the street from me they specialize in video games, but they dabble in vinyl and CDs, and they have a good chunk of movies. The thing is, their movies are normal price. Their video game, I'm not a gamer, so I don't know. But their vinyl and CDs are a bit pricey compared to like the 5 or 6 record stores in town. They're a bit pricey, and they don't think about condition as much as maybe they should. So what I do sometimes is I bring my extra vinyl, doubles, I might upgrade vinyl, and I bring it there. I know they're going to give me more than record stores, and then I buy movies with the extra money they give me because the movies are regular price, $3-4 a Blu-ray. So I went in there and they had Pulse with the light. I'm like, son of a bitch, I've been looking for that for years, dude. They wanted 35 for it. They gave it to me for 30. They put batteries in, showed me it blinked, and took the batteries out, and I brought it home. Put batteries in, I'm showing everyone in the house, oh, look, cool, look how cool it is. And it went out. The light went out. So I opened it up, I took the batteries out, they were red hot, like to the touch. So I put in new batteries just to see what would happen, and they got hot in 2 seconds, and this thing started smoking. Literally, I heard a pop, and smoke started coming from it. I'm like, if it blinked for a good 7 minutes, if I would have said cool and put it there, this could have caught my house on fire. Yeah. This thing.
Oh my.
So I didn't want a refund or anything, because if I get one that works, I'm never going to keep a battery in it ever anyways. So it's just cool to have one with the light, even though it's broken. But I noticed when I went in there, they had a big box set that caught my eye. It's like, oh, that badass box set. I know they want too much for it because their albums are a little overpriced. I saw $175. Looking on Discogs, because that's what you do. Let me see what I could get it for. $130 with shipping right now if I wanted to. So I'm not paying $175 for that thing. So when it smoked, I went in there, and what I did is I brought a bunch of extra vinyl I had. Some, Dio Holy Diver that I bought for $1 because it's all beat up. The vinyl is. I was like, I bet you they give me more than $1 for it. The dude that works there sometimes watches this. I hope he's not watching this show. I had like the Red Album from Grand Funk beat up. I was like, they're going to give me something for it. Brought in some extra CDs that I bought for 50 cents here and there that I already owned. Dummy. And I brought in a Pink Floyd The Wall that I have so many copies of The Wall. It's ridiculous. I brought in an original that's kind of beat up again. And I threw in the CDs, and then I have upgrades in movies, Blu-rays that I got on 4K. So I put it all together. I said, I'm going to go get that box set. And I went in, I said, boom. And I said, you know what? That Pink Floyd CD you sold me almost caught my house on fire. Guilt trip. So he's like, oh man, bring it back in. I said, don't worry, I'm going to keep it. He goes, I tell you what, I'll take $10 or $15 off whatever you want. So he looked at all my garbage I gave him, and he says, I'll give you $100 for everything.
Holy shit.
Yeah, if I would have brought that to a record store in downtown, $27 at the most. I would have
At the most.
$100, huh? And then he looked at the box set that I wanted. That was $176 going for $130 online. He goes, you can have it for $65. Bang.
Wow.
Now, what box set is it? Well, let me go back in time 20 years ago. I know I'm jumping all over the place in time. It's like a Christopher Nolan movie, but I'm a sucker for Crocus. Okay, you're going to learn something about me that's kind of weird.
Wow.
I have a very limited amount of 80s glam metal. I have some Great White, Cinderella, Doc, and some that I like, the First Europe. But 20 years ago, I made this mixed CD. It's really 2 CDs, and it's called Way Too Much Crocus, because it's like 36 songs of Crocus. And when I brought it into work at Chase Manhattan, when I worked there, all my buddies thought, they were a little younger than me, they thought this was hilarious. They're like, even you realize it's way too much Crocus. And I'm like, yeah, but it's a fun little mix thing. And when I made the thing, the prints, I remember the printer was out of ink and the image was too big and got pixelated. I was like, I'm going to fix that one day. But I never did, because the shittiness of it kind of added to the charm of the CD. And it's just 2 thin things glued together to make it And then about 4 years ago, I updated it and added a third CD to it. And then I called it Way Too Much Fucking Crocus, like the ultimate edition. And I made the cover all shitty again. I glued the 3 thin cases together again just to make it shitty. And now this has 45 Crocus songs on it. So the box set I saw sitting there that it won $175 for, but gave me for $65 is this monster, Crocus the Big 8. Is as thick as my Chicago box set, and that's thick as hell. And what it has is Metal Rendezvous, Hardware, One Vice at a Time, and Headhunter. So they're 4 after they, were a rock and rolly band, once right when they started dipping into more metallic sound to Headhunter. Then it skips a lot and goes to 2010, I think, Hoodoo, which is a really good, if you want to call it a comeback album, really good album. And then it goes into Dirty Dynamite, the next one, which was kind of a letdown for me, a little rock and rolly, a little boogie woogie. But then it's got Big Rocks, which is a cover album. Long Stick Goes Boom live from the House of Rust, which I'd never heard before. Holy crap, that album kicks ass. And then they have Unheard and Live Dirt, which some demos and a Christmas song, and then side 2 is all live. But here's the thing. A lot of these albums were originally not gatefolds, but now you get like these gatefolds, and it's almost like too nice for a band like Crocus. And the sound quality on this thing, that's probably why that live one sounds so good to me. If I had the CD, it wouldn't sound as good. There are 2 albums that I talk about sound quality wise. This reissue of The Wall from maybe, 10 years ago. And my original master recording of Supertramp, Crime of the Century. These are 2 of the sonically best sounding things I own. This is now in the top 3.
Wow.
I compared those first 3 albums in here to this little box set I have of those albums. This is like a transistor radio, and this is like they're in your living room playing live for you. The bottom end, boom, boom, is just pounding, and it makes everything sound so good. Even the boogie woogie rock and roll one doesn't sound that bad. And their cover of Born to Be Wild, which I'm like, even sounds amazing. So this thing, normally I get a box set and I listen to it a day, and I'm a little burned out on that band. I listen to this fucking thing 3 days in a row.
Wow.
Crocus. Now, I have way too much Crocus, way too much fucking Crocus, and goddamn way too much fucking Crocus now. So there you go. There's my Crocus.
A lot of Crocus.
Story.
A lot of Crocus.
Yes.
So 2 things. Nicky Sofian just watched this segment, and he is going to be scouring the internet looking for a copy of that box. He doesn't already have it. And 2, for the 20 people who have been harassing me for years why we don't talk about Crocus on the channel, there you go.
There you go. You know what? I looked for a review of this box set on YouTube. Nothing. So I'm the only son of a bitch out there who's done a review on it.
There you go.
And that live album, if you can find that live album, just the CD, I don't think it's going to have that booming bass and that thunderous roar that this. I don't know who did the mastering on this, but goddamn, he deserves an award. But I'd buy the CD anyways and just turn up your bass, I guess. I don't know.
Cool. Nice.
Cool.
All right, Scott.
All right, sir. Jamie, excellent job there. My brother likes to do kind of like what you do and slap together like his own anthologies, compilations, and make his own covers for them. And I remember he did one for Whitesnake, and it was a little kind of a tongue-in-cheek title, like "Here They Go Again," the best of Whitesnake. Yeah,
that's the most fun, coming up with the names.
Yeah. So that's what that reminded me of. I got a little bit of a theme too, different from Jamie's, of course, but these are bands that I discovered through watching SOT, and they're a little bit connected. And my first pick is from a band from the UK that I became acquainted with watching SOT, going back to the early days of the pandemic in 2020 when I started watching the channel. I had never heard of them, but I kept hearing Pete and others on the channel and in the Facebook comments talk about what a great prog rock band this was. from the 90s and 2000s. And I often heard comparisons to Pink Floyd, Rush, and even Radiohead. And since I was such a huge fan of all those, I was like, I owe it to myself to check them out. And came to enjoy their music so much, they ended up buying every album over the last 3.5 years, including the live ones, except for one. It seemed to elude me. It seemed like every time I found it online, it was just going for crazy amounts, and I guess it's out of print. Well, I finally tracked down a copy of Warzawa, live in Poland, 2001, by Porcupine Tree, UK modern prog rock band, and got it on a Discogs seller, reasonable price, wasn't crazy high, and it's in pretty good shape. And the name of the game on Curse of the Collector is got to collect them all, right? Collect them all. And but that's not to say I only bought this in the interest of completism. I guess that was part of it, but I have a total of 6 live albums now from Porcupine Tree, and I'd say every one of them is a kicker. They did not disappoint in a live setting, and this one is no exception. And as always, there's a high level of musicianship and energy in the set. And I really enjoy Steven Wilson's vocals. There's a great heaviness and intensity to their playing. And I'd say there's not a dud in the set here. Most of the songs were from what were then the 2 most recent albums, Stupid Dream and Lightbulb Sun, which is the one they're touring on. And I noticed most fans tend to rank the 3 albums that follow those as the best ones. And I guess I kind of do too. But these 2 aren't far behind for me. So this set, I think, is a great showcase for those albums. And you get Even Less, Slave Called Shiver, She's Moved On, Last Chance to Evacuate Planet Earth, Lightbulb Sun, Russia on Ice, Where Would We Be, Hate Song, Stop Swimming, Voyage 34, and ends with Signify.
You can't beat that set list, right?
That's an awesome set. And yeah, it maxes out the CD 79 and 17. It says in the notes here that they only had to leave one song off, Tinto Brass. But basically, this was recorded in Poland in the spring of 2001. And the lineup at the time was Steven Wilson, as always, guitar and vocals, Richard Barbieri on keyboards, Colin Edwin on bass, and Chris Maitland on drums and percussion and backing vocals. And of course, there was a lineup change after this tour. Maitland left and was replaced by the incredible Gavin Harrison on drums, which seemed to work pretty well for that sort of heavier direction that they were going in Absentia in 2002. But I'd still say Maitland is really great on this set. He serves the songs well, and indeed the entire band runs like a well-oiled machine, working together in perfect harmony. It's just great stuff. So that's my first pick.
So Scott, I've never heard that live album. How does it compare to Coma Divine, which so many people always cite as their best live album? And that's such a great set list. I'm like,
I love Coma Divine, but actually Coma Divine is not my personal favorite. My personal favorite is Anesthetize.
Yeah.
From the Fear of a Blank Planet tour.
Yeah, the later one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they're all great though. I don't think there's a bad one. One of the ones I was counting is it's I guess it's more of an EP. It's an acoustic set that they did, but that's part of the 6 I was talking about. But yeah, I if you don't have it, get it. It's a great set.
Cool. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. That's a good sweet spot of Porcupine Tree, right? For me. That
yeah,
full of like 5 or 6 albums to me is just that's where it's at.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, all around great stuff.
All right, my first selection today is something that I only just got in a few days ago, and there's a lot of content in this, so I haven't gotten through all of it yet, but I'm making my way through it. And this is a band that like a handful of people over the last couple of years have just been like, Pete, I never hear you talking about the great Dutch band Shocking Blue, and I've always been like, Shocking who? I don't know who Shocking Blue. And they're like, well, you know that song Venus, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's Shocking Blue. They were a Dutch band. I'm like, I thought they were just like some psychedelic US band from the late 60s, early 70s, whatever. No, there's a whole story behind this band. So yeah, so these guys were only around for like from like 67 to 74, and then they were done. But they released a whole bunch of albums and some live stuff. And so, who put this out? This is Red Bullet put out this box set called Shocking Blue, the Blue Book. And it's a 13 CD box set. Okay. And that's everything you get in there. So you get all their studio albums, a couple of live albums, you got some like singles collections and compilations. It's all in here. It's everything you'd ever want from Shocking Blue, probably more than you really need. And it comes in one of these, kind of clamshell
Way too
things.
much fucking Shocking Blue.
Yes, exactly. So we got Shocking Blue and Crocus. We got way too much.
Shocking.
Yes. And so this band features the vocal talents of Mariska Veres, I think her name was, and she is the very attractive lady who wears these big glamorous wigs, and she's got like big eyes and these high cheekbones, and she's very unique looking. And so basically, you get the booklet, which has information on all of the albums. All right, and lots of pictures. There she is. She wore these little skimpy outfits and these big wigs. Sometimes she's got curly hair, sometimes straight hair. And anyway, so there's a booklet that comes with that, and then you get, of course, all of the albums in all these little booklets here. So, and of course, I pulled them out of order because I was listening to the Live in Japan album, which is actually really good. So far, my impression. So, what does this band sound like? Well, you've got the Venus song, which everybody knows, and that's just catchy, kind of like psychedelic pop. But their music is strange because it doesn't really stay in any one place for too long. Some of the stuff is kind of like that. Some is kind of like a more acoustic folky. Some stuff is like country rock. Some is straight rock. Some is straight psychedelia. None of it's really overly heavy or overly rocking, although they do at times. But you got all the albums, so I'll just quickly show them all off. That's the first album. She wasn't in the band at the time, but then she joins for the second album. Okay, it's At Home. And we got a little bit of a glare here. Yeah, they use sitars and all sorts of weird instruments on here. This is actually a pretty cool album right here. Their third album.
I smell a ranking show coming.
Maybe at some point. The funny thing is, I still haven't decided if I really even enjoy this band or not. So I'm just kind of making my way through. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? It's like this is brand new to me. I only ever knew the one song, but
I'm guessing you must enjoy some of it.
well, yeah, and I haven't gotten through all of these because there's a ton in here.
It's a lot to go through.
Yeah, exactly. And my guess is I'm probably gonna like the latter stuff from the early 70s a little more than the 60s stuff. The 60s stuff is kind of all over the place, stylistically speaking. And I really like her voice, but it's like a lot of it's kind of acoustic in nature. And then, you'll get like this one electric song that kind of does it for me. And then I'll get three other songs that are in a style, which I'm not really crazy about. But it's intriguing. To me, it reminds me of, and they don't, this is a Dutch band, right? They don't sound like Golden Earring. And to me, they sound more like they're heavily influenced by like, the San Francisco psychedelic era. So like, Jefferson Airplane and all that kind of stuff. But there's just so much stuff on here. And then you got these cool little collections and singles collections and things. The A's and B sides part 1, the A's and B sides part 2, right? And
if it wasn't for Bananarama, I probably wouldn't even remember Venus.
Exactly. And you got like a little soundtrack here. So there's tons of stuff. The one thing I found very frustrating with this, and it's not on all of them, it's only on a few of them. You got a couple of these where there's no track listing on the back. This drives me absolutely bananas. I mean, come on. You got to put the song listings on the back of these, right? The rest of them, most of them have them. But then, you're listening to these and you're like, I don't know what this song is. Then you got to go find it in the booklet, right? It's just really annoying. But the booklet is loaded with information. And so far, what I've listened to the sound quality is really good. And I think is a way to get it. And this set was like $30. Cheap. 13 CDs for like $30 or $35. I mean, you can't beat it. Again, it remains to be seen whether I actually wind up really even liking all this stuff. As of right now, I'm kind of like on the fence, but I haven't listened to enough of it to really say. But really cool band, very different. They're obviously pretty cool musicians. And if you go on YouTube, there's lots of live footage from the early days of this band. And they seem to come across a little bit more lively on stage. But they were only around, like I said, only around for a few years. Lots of content. They must have been putting out like an album or 2 or 3 every single year. So yeah, so Shocking Blue, the Blue Box. If you're all interested in this band, if you like Venus and you want to explore more, because there's a lot more, here's where you get it. So go check it out. Yeah. Nice set. And it's, it's the box is the same size as a normal CD, which is kind of cool. Gotta love that. And fits on the shelf, somewhere. So yeah, that's
Some people might say, why not sample them on YouTube and see if you like them before you buy the box set? Because it's fun to take the plunge and just gamble. That's why.
It is. Yeah, if you don't mind spending the 30 or 35 bucks.
Yeah, it's spending 30.
Yeah, Jamie mentioned the Bananarama version. I always liked the original version better. It's just something really cool and sort of mysterious about that song.
There's a live version of them playing Venus. God, I don't even know what year it's from, 70 or 71, so or 72, I don't know, something like that. And I forget where it is, but in the live version, the guitar player cranks up the fuzz, and all of a sudden Venus becomes this big, heavy rock psychedelic anthem. And I'm like, whoa, I never heard it that way before. That's pretty damn cool. So yeah, I'll see if I can get you the link to that. But
I don't know if I'd want to invest in a whole box set, but
I
might want to hear a little more, maybe around that same period. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. All right, Rick, back to you.
Okay. One of the bands that I like, and I know Pete is a fan, I believe you guys are too. I like the Doors, and over the years I try to get all the footage, and I've always been collecting all these live shows. If there's a rarity album that has a couple tracks I never heard, I'm always on a mission. Even if Jim Morrison is long gone, they put out American Prayer. I try to get as much Doors as I could. And so over the years, it's been great that they've been releasing all these live concerts. You get the Blu-ray and the CD of the Isle Right concert, which I have. Quite a few things, but I've been enjoying getting some of the concerts that I've heard, like a couple of songs from these concerts, but not the whole show. So I was able to search it out. Live at Cobo Hall in Detroit, 1970 was a big deal for me. But the one why I bring it up, because they just released another one called Live at the Matrix. And basically, if you know the timeline, the Doors recorded the first album in 66, put it out January of 67. This concert is between March 7th, 8th, 9, and 10. First set, second set, second set, just like the Richie A Go-Go, where they will play a couple nights in the same location, or like Jimi Hendrix at the Fillmore. It's a show in the afternoon and it's a show in the evening, that kind of thing. But they got it written down as first set, second set, third set, like if you were a bar band. So I'm not sure if you just sit there the whole night or what, or you got to walk out and go. I don't know how that worked. But anyway, what's interesting in this the song is that they're promoting some songs, obviously from the first album, some covers, but they give you a sneak peek of what coming out on the second album, Strange Days. Like they were performing this on March 10th, Moonlight Drive, right? When that album doesn't come out to September. So obviously you've been recording it. Can't See Your Face in My Mind, a couple of songs in that come from that period. When the music over, people are strange. So they were doing it way back up when the album just freshly out of the gate. They already been performing songs for the second album. And in fact, there's a third album song that's in this set, is Summer's Almost Gone, which that don't release to the third album. So it's kind of cool to hear this, some cool covers, but nothing that you didn't hear eventually if you have those albums. They would do those covers like the Crawling King Snake on the Riders of the Storm album, a few things, but they've been performing these songs from way back then. And there's other good gems, Rock Me Baby, Women's a Devil, but just to hear some version of these songs, and they were pretty much just like the way you hear the album when it finally being released the following year. So it's kind of cool. But anyway, I like this really nice 3 CDs, nice little booklet, and gives you a lot of information about what was going on. And it was kind of interesting to hear the room, how people will respond to some songs. Some were polite, some of it a little on the rowdy side, depending on the set and whatever. So they really ain't that big yet. They're not huge, where they will have like we see in the Hollywood Bowl. So, but there's other good gems that I like to share live at Pittsburgh 1970 is a good one. The one in Vancouver 1970, and every time, and this has a 2 CD, and I like it because this band keeps changing the set list. There's always some different songs in every show, or a different version, or he'll throw a different poem and light my fire or something like
Plus,
that.
Jim never sings the same songs the same way ever. That was great.
Very rarely, and it's really the dynamic reading the room, how the band is, and that running order is how he might have all this energy in the beginning, he's getting a little tired near the end, or it's vice versa. It's just depending on the night. Now, because when you go surfing for all kinds of Doors stuff live to complete and make sure you got it all, because that's the curse. This thing keep coming up over the years, and finally we mastered. And I'm thinking, do I want this? And this is the 2 albums that they put out after Jim Morrison had passed. And I'm like, you know how I am. I'm like, you don't got that original singer. It takes me a long time. Forgive or move on. And but this was so cheap. It's like $20 and had 2 CDs remastered. And I'm like looking at it, and it said The Doors, Other Voices, and the other one called Full Circle, which is in 72. And I learned, what you mean to tell me they put out another album out the same year, Riders of the Storm in 71? And apparently they did. And I learned that they were making this music while he was in Paris. He was supposed to come home and start singing to some of this stuff, and which we know didn't happen, or he's missing, depending on your conspiracy theory. But the reality is this album sounds like something you would expect the Doors to give to Jim to do. But they sang on the album. Ray sang the album, just like he have done a couple times when Jim Morrison was a no-show at a concert in Europe, where he ate so much hash that he passed out. He ate it instead of just, and they told him, hey, have some. He just think it's like a brownie, and he eats it, and it's hash. It's all pure hash. So he's like wasted. So Ray has sang the whole show, by himself. So he kind of did that. Now the second record, Full Circle, doesn't even sound like the Doors. At least I could say Other Voices. The music. Yeah, I can see what Jim Morrison would do with this song. You can picture a little bit, because it's not too far from the imagination, where it has that whole dynamic that we know about the Doors. But this other album, it sounds like something like a totally different band. Not to say it's bad, but it has all these backup singing in there and all kinds of stuff. It's kind of totally different. And I'm like, why even call it the Doors? I just wondered if it's because they were promised a contract and they got to fulfill it. I don't know. Is that why we have the American Prayer in the first place? But I don't know. But trust me, I listened to it. Am I going to grab it and listen to it again? Not highly unlikely, because without Jim, to me, that is the Doors. But I got to say, just for the curiosity's sake, I'm glad I got it. I mean, it didn't break the bank. It's only $20 for 2 CDs remastered. And it's been coming up on my feed so often. This is how you get rid of it. Buy it. Move on to something else. Anyway, The Curse is Real, because I know I can actually say I have every Doors.
There you go. I don't think I've ever listened to those 2 Doors albums.
Bought it already. Get the hell out of here now.
Remember when they toured with Ian Astbury as kind of like the Doors?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The 21st.
I wish I would have saw that.
I saw that. It was pretty good, actually, because
I could see it
sounds a
working.
lot like him. Yeah.
I bought that album that called Stone Immaculate, because Stone Temple Pilot and Ian and The Call have done their covers, and I always had that curiosity, how would they sound doing it? So I grabbed it. But there's quite a few people on this, Aerosmith and Creed and Smash Mouth, and I don't know, even the Doors do cover their own stuff by using old tape. John Lee Hooker and Jim Morrison doing Roadhouse Blues. So kind of interesting.
Cool. Yeah, that Doors live album looks pretty good.
Yes, it is. I mean, you know what? It's they're not as tight as you know they will be. So it's kind of interesting. They're a little bit green here, and they're more true to the record than the improvisation that takes the life of its own after you're doing it 100 times. So they get so fresh for them.
Cool. Jamie.
All right. Rick mentioned how Jim Morrison would sometimes come out with a lot of energy and then be tired at the end. I'm like, that's me on the Monsters Den. All right. So the next story I got happened within the last 2 weeks. First of all, it's beer o'clock in this house, so cheers. So
At least you're drinking somewhat of a good beer today.
yeah, I start off with that's my dark beer these days at my age, and then I go to the light beer. Anyways, so I went on Marketplace on Facebook, and I'm always on Marketplace just looking to see what's on there. It's kind of like a thrift store in your hand. You never know what's going to be on there cheap. And it's getting harder to find cheaper things, though. Everything's marked up. But I saw a reel-to-reel player that I actually also put on my Let's Get Physical page, as you guys might have saw. So I bought a reel-to-reel player. The chick only wanted $50 for it. Like 50, I always wanted one, even if it doesn't work. They just look cool. So for $50, and I already had a 20 in my wallet that's been there for like 5 months. So I'm like, oh, really? All I got to do is this is going to cost me like 30. So I went and got it. I met her at Lowe's, and I brought it home, and the wheel was spinning. I'm like, all right. So does it play tapes? Well, reel-to-reels are not cheap. So I went on eBay, and the cheapest one I could find just to test it was Tony, Orlando, and Dawn for like $6. I'm like, this will just be my testing tape. And if it works, then we'll see what road I go down. I might have opened up a new door. So I ordered it, and I was waiting for it to come, but I did not have a empty reel for the reel to go onto. So I went down to my buddy's record store, Used Kids. I walked in. I said, "Hey, do you got any empty reels?" And he said, "There's a whole box of blank tapes over there that are like 50 years old. I sell them for $1. Just take the whole tape off and use the plastic reel as your empty one." So I went there and I got it, and I bought something else, and he was just like, "Take it with you." But I got home, and first of all, there's a lot of tape on it. And I decided I got an empty reel from eBay, and it was here really quick. So I set it all up with the blank tape and the empty tape. And would you like to see it? I keep it behind the door here. This is where I keep my old school cassette player from like 1974, the kind of cassette player that looks up and you slide in the cassette and pop the door down.
Oh, yeah.
And my old school reel-to-reel. Let me shed some light on the subject. So he said to rip this tape out. Well, I got this thing playing, and it's got like Sly Stone and Eric Burden and who else, and someone else on here. I'm like, there is no way that I am going to Sly and the Family Stone and Eric Burden. I'm like, this has been recorded by some guy who's probably dead. I ain't gonna be the one to erase this guy's history, like back in 1971. So it does turn on, like I said, and does it work 100%? Sometimes you gotta give it a little. So there it is spinning.
Turning, yeah.
And it just looks badass. And yes, if I work, sometimes the tape doesn't measure up to what reads it perfectly in there. You got to slide it in a little further, and then it starts reading it. When this tape is done, will I ever get this working again? I don't know. But saying that, I went on eBay, and I was like, let me just see how much Pat Benatar reel-to-reels are. Let me just look. So I
Maybe
saw
it
this.
was your best
I
shot.
saw
You knew
two.
it was coming, right?
I saw two, and I'm like, I don't know if I'll play them, but I'm in this mindset now. This is the curse. This is the fucking curse right here. So they had two on there, and they were starting bids. I don't know what the starting bids were, but they were up to $17 each. And it was Crimes of Passion and Precious Time. And each one ended within 45, 50 minutes of one another. I could see in the future in 2 days. And then I also noticed it's the store is my buddy's store, Used Kids. It's his eBay store. So I don't even need to pay for shipping. I could save $6.95 on shipping. I'll just go down and get it. So I'm bidding on both of these. And now we're at the witching hour, right? With an hour until one ends and an hour and 45 minutes till the other ends. And I'm in a bidding war with some asshole. Who knows where this guy is? But we're just screwing each other. We're making each other bid more than we want to. But then this is the first time I ever bid on anything on eBay. Every time I buy something, it's buy it now or nothing. I don't bid. But I'm bidding now, goddammit, with this asshole. And he's doing his max bid by fives. I'm doing my max bids by five. So Crimes of Passion is up to $75 now. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I start getting busy. There's like 15 minutes left, and I start getting busy with work. And then I come by, and I was the highest bidder at $75. He outbid me. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck you. You spent about $30 more than you wanted to. So, but what goes around comes around, because now it's precious time with about 45 minutes left. And now here I am in the bidding war, precious time, and I'm not as busy with work. And then I'm the highest bidder. Here we are with $75 again. And you can watch the live countdown, and it's going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Got it. And so I guess they have a warehouse or something, Greg, at Used Kids. They don't have it right in the store. So when I called, they said, give us a few days, we'll have it. So I drive down there the following Saturday morning or something, and he gives it to me, and he knows how much I love Pat Benatar. He's like, you don't see that every day. I said, no, you don't. And then I take it out, and it's still taped. You probably can't see it. It's still taped. The tape is still taped to the side. It's never been played.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so this is super cool now, and they're
Nice.
bigger than I
Yeah.
thought they were going to be. Even though they said 7 inches in my brain, I was thinking like this big for some reason. So now I'm thinking, wouldn't it be cool to have all of hers unreal to real up to when they stop making them? No, I'm not going to start pulling out every album. No, but I'm thinking about it. I should have got that Crimes of Passion now, because they would look cool next to one another. Get Nervous is on eBay for $199. No. I got to tell you, but maybe in the next couple years I'll have them all on reel to reel. But like this thing playing Sly Stone, when it is playing and working, holy shit, it sounds cool, and it looks cool. Yeah, I brought down the wife. I said, look, you got to come look at this. I don't know if it'll ever play again. Come look at it. I took a video of it. So, yeah.
What was her take?
Yeah, what was her reaction?
Yeah.
Well, I had the door shut, and I was like, you know where the music's coming from? And then I open it up, and she goes, holy shit, it works. I said, kinda. That may never work again. But yeah, reel to reel. Down that out. Get real. Too real.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I know if I did that, my wife would be like, what the
Let me show this real quick. So for the first time ever, I almost forgot. God damn it. I would have had to interrupt Scott and go, wait a minute, I forgot something. For the first time ever, I have an album on every format. My original, cassette, 8-track, CD, vinyl, Spanish vinyl, uno numero one in USA, and reel to reel.
Look at that. till he finds out that they released it on Laserdisc, and then that'll be
or
on.
something. Yeah. And all I need
What
now.
about mini disc?
You know how
No, what's missing is her sitting in my lap and singing me all the songs. Then I'll have everything.
There you go.
Wow,
Awesome.
that's cool.
All right, I had no idea we're going to get an introduction to reel on the show today. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, if anybody was going to do it, Jamie was the man.
Jamie, the king of props.
That's right. All right, Scott, what do you got?
All right. Well, okay, my second pick, it's by another band that I discovered on SOT, and like Porcupine Tree, they have some pretty heavy prog leanings, but were actually began as a death metal band. You probably know where I'm talking about, for the first part of their career. And if anyone had told me like 4 years ago that you're going to be digging a death metal band,
This is your
I
gateway
said
drug.
you were high. Like, no way. I hate that shit, that growly shit, the Cookie Monster vocals, forget it, you know. But I always like metal and hard rock. Hadn't kept up as much from the 90s and 2000s, and wasn't into the more extreme metal generally. But I had been hearing so many great things about this band from multiple people on the channel. Pete was always talking them up, and I had to hear them for them myself. And my second pick, it's Opeth live in concert at the Royal Albert Hall.
Is that the 5-disc set?
This is 5 discs. It's 3 CDs and 2 DVDs. And these guys, they had a connection with Porcupine Tree. That kind of helped pique my interest. Stephen Wilson had produced their album Damnation, and I think he did some mixing on some of the other albums, some of the later albums. And I think it's fair to say that each band sort of had some influence on each other. And this spectacular set came out in 2010, and at the end of the band's death metal period, and is a hell of a summation of that period. It's 3 CDs, and like I said, 3 CDs, same, and the same set is on video on 2 DVDs. I say video because sometimes you get the DVDs that just play music. They're not video. And but it also includes an interview and a documentary about the band, and they are on fire here. Gotta say, these guys were a bit of a hard sell for me at first. Like I said, the growls were kind of a deal breaker at first, but I was informed that they had gone pretty much all prog metal, starting with Heritage in 2011, and dropped the growls altogether. So I started with those albums. And as I really came to enjoy those albums, I found I wanted to dive in further. And I went for it, growls and all, because they are just so damn good at what they do that I just couldn't ignore them. And I eventually got all of the studio albums, and they had 2 other live albums, but this completes the collection. And it's a nice one to finish it off with. I love just the heaviness and the intensity. They can be loud and heavy and dark and menacing, but they can also be very melodic and just plain beautiful. And oftentimes they can do all that in one song.
Oh, yeah.
That's the crazy part, you know. How many bands can do that? Michael,
I'm not lying. I listened to that this morning. I had the DVDs in, watching it this morning.
Oh yeah, I was watching it also.
Jamie gave me that as my first homework assignment.
I remember that. I remember watching that, and you were also kind of like not.
Yeah, I'm a singer. I want to hear somebody can do the vocal, but you just can't ignore the great music behind that silly stuff and it's not all through it. At first, I thought it was like, what the purpose of this growl? Is he a character? Is he playing a role? Like it's just like a rock opera? And it's none of the above. It's just adding to the intensity, right? And you learn to accept that later on. But I was just impressed with the light and shade, the dynamic, the way the ebb and flow, the songwriting, the arrangements. It's just so impressive. You just couldn't help it. So I ended up buying it, and I went down that rabbit hole because Jamie
Yeah,
gave me that
it was a
homework
good
assignment.
rabbit hole, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. I think it was Louis Nasser said it on the in the prog seat that like don't think of it as growling, think of it like another instrument. And okay, yeah, and after a while, I mean, at first I'm sort of compartmentalizing it and like, okay, I like this part. Okay, the growls, maybe not so much, but after a while, you're kind of taking it in and you're accepting it as part of the whole picture, right?
That's right.
And the way he does it, I think I like it. I've heard other death metal bands, and a lot of them, it's not for me, and it's still not for me. But there's something the way he does it. He does it in a more melodic way or something. I don't know. It works.
I've always said, and I listen to a fair amount of death metal. I always said that Michael Ackerfeld's death metal growls are probably my favorite out of anybody because you can kind of understand what he's saying, and it's not.
To some degree, yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, and then he switches back and forth between
Yeah.
vocals and the clean vocals. And he's
That
a
really impresses me the way he
melodic
does
singer.
that.
I mean, really, really good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
and
can
it's
you
hard.
tell he's a Deep Purple fan?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. I was going to say that. Yeah, that they had modeled that after the Deep Purple.
And I thought there was a symphony on that album for the longest time, the
Right.
Opeth one, since it was copied off this one, but there isn't.
Yeah, they were just doing it as a tribute with the photo. But yeah, he can go from those ear shredding death growls to beautiful, clean vocals at the drop of a hat. And sometimes it's hard to believe it's the same guy. But I love the mix of electric and acoustic guitars, and they just make it all work so seamlessly.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite album of the discography, if you don't mind me asking? Now that you've been,
I think for a while there, it was probably Pale Communion, but Blackwater Park has definitely moved up for me. And I know a lot of people say that one, but that one I was probably a little hesitant to say it before because it's got the death growls on there.
Would you say yours changes monthly, Pete?
Yeah, I have a hard time like claiming a favorite Opeth album because it changes all the time. I remember like when Sorceress first came out. I mean, I love that album.
Yeah,
And I did my album ranking shortly after that came out, and I had that as my number one. And people were like crucifying me. They're like, "There's no way Sorceress can be your favorite Opeth album." I'm like, "Well, it is today." And then, like, I don't know, a year later, I did some other show about Opeth, and Blackwater Park came back up there. And sometimes Ghost Reveries is number one, and
Still
sometimes
Life is kind of underrated.
Still Life is great, right? Yeah, and I like the most recent one. So it's changes all the time. I think the only album that for me never is like in the top one or two or three is Orchid, the debut, which is good, but that's just it's very raw and uncomfortable.
Yeah, and I don't think they quite adapted any of the prog yet. I mean, they were sort of had some proggy elements even fairly early on.
Yeah.
The long epic kind of songs, long instrumental passages, that kind of thing. But
Morning Rise gets a little black metal-y.
Which one? Morning Rise?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still Life is always in my top three, no matter what changes.
Still Life is damn good. I was really amazed at just how good that one was.
I love
Watershed is terrific too.
Yeah. We're just naming all of them.
A lot of
them. That's why it's a different every day.
But yeah, I mean that's the thing. They keep it interesting. So on here
they're due for a new one.
They are. They're overdue. Hopefully, I'll get to see them in the next year or so. It would be nice. So you got Michael Ackerfeld vocals and guitar. You got Frederick Ackerson lead guitar backing vocals. Per Weiberg on keyboards and backing vocals. Martin Mendez bass and Martin Axenrod on drums and percussion. First disc on this is the entire Blackwater Park album, start to finish, and then the other two, they doing every one song from each of the albums that they had up to that point in chronological order, just kind of going through their history, and Michael just kind of giving a little introduction on each of the songs. So you got Leper Infinity, Bleak, Harvest, Drapery Falls, Dirge for November, The Funeral Portrait, Patterns in the Ivy, Blackwater Park. That's the whole Blackwater Park album. Then you got Forest of October, Advent, April Ethereal, The More, Wreath, Hope Leaves, Harlequin Forest, and the Lotus Cedar, finishing things off. Just kicking set.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas Porcupine Tree, I would say, was a prog-oriented band. They came to add some metal elements to their music. Opeth started off as a metal band, a death metal band, and added some proggy elements to their music over time, gradually adding more of that as they went on, going full on prog metal eventually. And I think both bands have an interesting evolution over their long careers, but just thanks to SOT, Pete, Jamie, everybody else for bringing these bands to my attention, and in addition to many others.
Cool. That's always good to see.
Right on.
We do a show on the Contrarians every Wednesday night live at 7 o'clock, and it's based off of album covers. And this coming Wednesday, the theme is doppelganger album covers that look alike live albums. And I will be talking about, one of my picks was the Opeth Deep Purple.
Good example.
Yeah. When I first saw that, I immediately thought of the Deep Purple. I mean, that's what they were going for.
Yep. All right. To finish this off here today, I'm going to show off a little box set that I got not long ago on a German band from the 70s that I had never heard of before. I think I'm pretty hip to most prog bands from the 70s and prog, heavy prog, whatever. But Ken Golden's like, you ever listen to Satin Wheel? And I'm like, or Satin Whale, sorry. And I'm like, who? Satin Whale? It's like, no idea who they are. It's like, oh, really good German band. It's got a box set. It's got all their albums in. I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. Cheap enough, right? Why not? So this is the set. Satin Whale were a German band, heavy prog band, I guess you can call it, from Germany. They've got 5 studio albums. They were only around from 74 to 81. These are the albums. Okay, and I'm getting a little bit of glare there. So we got the first album from 74, I believe it was, is Desert Places. Lost Mankind came out in 75. As a Keepsake came out in 77, I believe. Yep. And then you have A Whale of Time, which was 78, and then Don't Stop the Show, which came out in 1981. And that's basically the band right there. So, and this is from Made in Germany, MIG Records. So yeah, they fit all 5 in here. So it's one of these kind of double openers. So here you got the disc and the booklet, first disc, first album. And what's kind of cool is they also put the album covers on the disc themselves, which I think is a nice little thing. And then when you open up the back half, you get the same thing back here. And then the other one's tucked in on the back of here. So what does this band sound like? It's really interesting because I think from album to album, their sound changes a little bit. Like the first album is very kind of riffy and I would say kind of heavy. It kind of reminds me of like the first or second Eloy album. And then on the second album, it starts to take on more of like a classic symphonic prog sound. Third album kind of goes in that direction. Then with the latter albums, they become a little bit more kind of straightforward and commercial, but still pretty good. I would say the first 3 albums are probably the best in this set. And if you like lots of Hammond organ, crunchy, bluesy, heavy rock guitars, lots of guitar solos, and pretty good vocals. This is pretty good stuff, actually. It's got the booklet, so there's the guys in the band. Right. My only complaint about this set is that the entire booklet is in German. So as far as their history goes, I can't tell you too much other than what I've already told you. But you do get, if you do speak German, you can read German, and then you got all the track lists and everybody who plays on. So just to give it, so like on the first album, you got Thomas Bruck, bass and vocals, Dieter Rosberg, guitars, flutes, alto, sax, lead vocals. That's another cool thing about these albums too. The one guy plays flute and sax, so you get all this big Hammond organ and crunchy guitars, and then you get some sax and flute, so it's pretty neat. Gerald Delmon, organ, piano, and vibes, and Horst Schatzkin on drums and vocals. And that lineup would change on and off throughout the years. They even added I believe, an English singer at one point, so you could tell like a little bit different vocal style and whatnot. But yeah, this is really good stuff. And then, you know, they show you some of the other things, the other collections that MIG has as well. Some of these are pretty cool. Again, it's always cool when you got a record label that's willing to put out these kind of sets on these more obscure bands. So like you're
Mhm.
a band like Epitaph, if you haven't listened to Epitaph, they're excellent. They got a set with 4 of their albums. Omega, the band Omega from Hungary, I believe they were, Gate, and you know, various other bands here. 2066, and then that's another good one. I picked that up a few years ago. So yeah, this is really good. I love, you know, getting turned on to a band from yesteryear that I had never heard before. And especially, you know, when you think, just when you think that you know about all these obscure bands, another like 10 pop up and you're like, oh shit, you know, and anything from this time period for me is always very special. So yeah, I would highly recommend this. This is good stuff. It's very affordable. Satin Whale, like I said, you can get this wherever you buy your CDs, but I think Ken Golden's got this in stock over at lasercd.com. So very, very cool set of a very cool kind of obscure band. So
Cool.
Cool.
there we go.
All
That's
right.
it for another episode of The Curse of the Collector, folks. So you got some box sets, some deep dives into catalogs, you got reel to reel, you got Jimmy Page, all sorts of fun stuff here today. So if you're watching and you like to kind of take part in this whole show until we do, please list down in the comments section some cool things that you found out in the wild of late. And we will do this all over again next month. So till then, visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, all together, all
All
at
the
the time.
damn
Yeah,
time.
time.
Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. And we'll see you next month here on The Curse of the Collectors. For Scott Berry, Jamie Laslow, and Rick Labonte, and David Gallagher, I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching. Happy hunting out there. And remember, the curse is
Real.
real. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.